Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be checking out the FlyWoo Mr. Croc Freestyle frame. So this is a 225mm frame that is aimed at freestyle and cinematic flying. Just pretty simple packaging here with the box. All of our pieces here. Get everything out. Comes with some battery straps here. It's actually a single battery strap, but this is, wow, this is a pretty nice one. You can see we have our main Velcro material here, and then we have our metal D-ring buckle, and we have sort of an extra really thick backing on this, as well as, hopefully you can tell, it has the Kevlar stitching through it. So that's actually a really nice solid battery strap that they include there. Get a couple FlyWoo stickers. Obviously we have all of the frame parts and hardware there, and then we do have an instruction manual. And now, as you can see here, one of the special things about this frame is that you can actually change the orientation of how you set it up. So you can do a dead cat, true X, hybrid, and a stretch X configuration depending on how you mount the arms. So if you're just using this for straight up freestyle, you'll probably want to use the true X or stretch X. But if you can see, this main body plate is actually extremely long, and the benefit of this is for cinematic flying. You get the camera way up out of view, and if you run it in the dead cat configuration, it says no props in view, you won't have any problems with that, and you can run very low tilt as well and still not have props in view. Because normally with my other frames, I have to have at least 40 degrees of camera tilt and not have props in view. This you could probably go down to 0 if you wanted. So let's just take a look at the pieces. This is one of the arms here. You can see it is 5mm thick. Very nice chamfered arm. You can see it is omitting the 4th motor hole, which I think is a good idea. It lets a lot more strength at the end here, so you're not going to be breaking that there. Everything is chamfered on the arms. The main plate here is 2.5 mils, I think. Okay, so this plate is 2mm flat, and then just to check, the arms are about 4.7. It might just be my crappy calipers here. And then this brace plate's probably also going to be 2. Yep. And then this mid plate with all of the press nuts in it. That's pretty nice, the way to mount all the arms. It is also 2mm. So these parts here look like camera brackets. Little metal pieces that are going to insert into the frame with the typical FlyWoo bling and gold color there. Just like their motors. And then here we have our standoffs, and they are all dog bone standoffs. And normally I would not be a big fan of this just because it is hard to mount TPU things to this, because you can pretty much only mount it, like if it needs to be big enough to slide over the top, then it's going to be loose in the center, so you can only have it at the very top. But that's not going to be a problem since this does have the camera plates. You're not going to need TPU mounts, so that should be perfectly fine. And of course we get all of our steel screws here. These are 10.9 hardness, not 12.9, so it is a little bit less strong. However, for a frame like this, especially this frame, has a lot of mounting points, and you know, it's mostly for freestyle and cinematic flying. That'll be perfectly fine. You don't need the ultra hardness of 12.9 like you do for racing. So let's go ahead and get this thing assembled. I think I'm going to choose the dead cat version, just since I'm going to be using this for cinematic flying with my GoPro Session, or my GoPro Hero 7. And then if you look on the other side, you get a little layout of all what's included, as well as an exploded view to help you assemble it. Should be pretty simple. So I just went ahead and separated all the screws. You get 6mm, 10mm, and 16mm there. Since we are screwing into metal press nuts, metal into metal, it's always a good idea to use a little bit of blue Loctite here. So looking at the base plate, the extremely long front section, that is the front to help extend the camera, and then on the top plate, the other long section goes there. So it looks like the arms, so we have this base plate. This looks fully symmetrical, so it shouldn't matter the way we put this. So the way this becomes different, like prop configurations with the dead cat or the hybrid or the stretch X, if you look at the arms here, if you mount it all the way on the outside where they butt up together, this is going to be sort of the true X configuration, the normal one. And if you take it and mount it in this screw, so that hole, let's get it, let's get it over there. So this hole is now unused, and these other two line up. Now it is in a longer configuration. So if I show you that, hopefully you can see on the left side we have the true X, on the right side we have the stretch X, where it kind of pushes the motors back further. So because I'm going to want to be doing the dead cat version, I'm going to mount the rear ones in the longer configuration and the front ones in the shorter configuration to try and get the props out of view, which they should be just fine. So what we have to do is come up through the bottom plate into the arm and then into the mid plate here. Just taking my 2mm driver and tightening that down loosely. Once again, the press nuts make it super easy. You only need one tool to tighten everything up. So those two are 10mm screws, and then for the one without the press nut, that is actually going to be the 16mm. And it does not go up through the stack, which is a nice touch. It actually goes up, and it make sure you use the 16 so that there's long enough to thread this standoff into. Then I like to carefully hold the standoff and just crank it a little bit with pliers without scraping it, just to make sure that is nice and tight. And there is the first arm. Okay, so there are the back two arms. And I was a little worried because the normal ones actually butt up in the center, but if you do it in this sort of longer stretch X configuration, they actually don't butt up at all. As you can see, there is a room and space in there, but because it's using 3 screws, these things are absolutely locked, as well as the screw tolerances were very tight. I almost had to thread the screws through, which is actually a good thing. It keeps it nice and tight. Over time, it will slightly loosen, which is why the Loctite is a good idea. So with these screws, you're not going to be using this hole anymore. So you have the outer one, which is a 10mm, and then this all the way inner one, which is a 10mm, to go into this press nut and this press nut. This one is now unused, and then the 16mm goes in the same slot as the other ones, just to come up through this hole right here without a press nut, since that goes into the standoff. So right now I have all of the arms on. I'm at the point, I just installed all the standoffs. I'm at the point of putting in the camera plates, and they're actually a little bit too tight. I can't get them to fit in there, but this actually is not a terrible thing, because you don't want camera plates to be loose. Get that one out. You don't want it to be loose and vibrating around and giving your camera jealous. I'm actually just going to take a tiny little diamond file and just file out a tiny bit of material to help push these plates in. Okay, there we go. Just took the rubber side of my pliers and gave it a little bit of push down in there. And there we go. Those are all seated extremely tightly in there. So not a bad thing that I had to file it out a little bit. I'd rather have them a little bit too tight than a little bit too loose, because you can take something and shave down the material. Alright, and there I have the frame assembled. I had to file these out as a little bit as well. And while I was at it, I went ahead and filed where the battery strap is going to go around on the top plate here. But overall, hopefully you can see sort of the dead cat configuration, where we have the props farther backwards, the front more elevated than the rear. The only problem that I have with this type of setup, and them being so incredibly tight, I had to hammer these in pretty hard since I didn't want to file them out as much, is removing the top plate to build this guy, or just for repairs. It's going to be a little annoying. However, the frame is so roomy. There's so much room in here. And if you see, they actually included 30 by 30 and 20 by 20 holes, not only right here, but here and here. So you have 3 spots, 3 places to mount stacks if you want. Like if you want to put your flight controller here, or your ESC here, your flight controller here, your VTX, whatever kind of combination you want. This thing is mounting holes all over the place. You can see up front, we got a plethora of mounting here. And then in the back, same thing as well. This is the size for a TBS SMA to screw directly on if you want. And then we have a couple extra screws here. Just so many options with this frame, which is definitely a luxury of it being so big. Now it definitely is not light, so let's go ahead and take a weight on it. The site says it's 125 grams, so let's see. It's coming in at 119.4, so it's probably depending on the configuration you use. With these extra screws. So 119 isn't actually that bad. I know some frames in this size are 130, 140 grams. My ideal freestyle frame would be about 90 grams, but this is just going to be fine, especially if you're considering it like me for a cinematic rig. With the GoPro so far elevated out front, I think it'll be just fine. You're not worried about weight so much. You're pretty much just cruising. You're not doing flippy floppies. Overall, in terms of frame durability, I am pretty impressed. In the front, where the arms do sandwich together, there is absolutely zero slop. And the same in the rear, there's zero slop. The tolerances on this frame are very tight, and having 3 screws per arm definitely help. As you can see, the distance between the standoffs is very acceptable. It is a little bit far in the front, however, your battery does not sit up there, as well as the camera cage basically acts as a standoff and protects there. So there's not a long stretch where it's unsupported on 2mm top plate. And overall, I think the arm design is definitely going to be very durable, and this should be kind of a tank, even though it's not going to be used as a tank, for me at least. So the standoffs themselves are 25 millimeters. So it is a little bit of a slam. It's not anything crazy like 10 millimeters, but because this is going to be an absolutely easy build, there's so much room in here. And just note that the upfront camera section is spaced for micro-only cameras. You cannot fit a mini or full-size camera in here, micro only. And if you do look, these mounting plates, we can see they do have 3 separate holes, actually 3 holes in 1 slot, so you can put the camera pretty much wherever you want. However, if you're using a micro camera with a short lens, you're probably going to be using the very front hole, and you'll clear the frame just fine with nothing in view, as well as it will be pretty protected. So that's pretty much going to be it for the FlyWoo Mr. Croc frame. Not too much else to say right off the bat here. Just wanted to do a little bit of a build overview. It definitely is an interesting frame, being able to convert to 4 different styles. Is it worth it? I'm not sure. Like I said, it is 120 grams, so that is definitely a little bit heavier than I would like. But once again, for sort of a dead cat cinematic cruiser, I think it might actually be pretty nice. The only thing left is to see if they have GoPro mounts for it available. If not, I'll have to make my own. The only problem I can see is where would I mount the GoPro mount? Definitely screw in here and probably utilize these 2 screw holes as well. Just do something sort of close like that. Probably a Hero 7 mount at like maybe 25 degrees. Hopefully I can get this thing built in time before I take it to the beach so I can get some really nice footage there. I'll probably be transferring over this invert frame here. I never actually used this too much, so I might as well put the electronics back to good use. As a Synergy in here, I actually stole the receiver from it. But a Synergy and a 4-in-1 and Brother Hobby 2306 motors should be pretty nice for longer range cruising. So yeah, that's going to be the end of the video. There will be a link down in the description below to the frame if you're interested. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.